India has a higher representation of leaders.
Right.
But again, it's only less than 20% actually.
Yeah.
Globally, it's 28%. In India, it's less than 20%. Why is that? Because 50% of our Indian tech workforce is women, but only 20% make it to the top. Because we have systemic issues. Women in technology can completely change the landscape once given access, opportunity, and the ability to unlock what they already have within themselves. Companies that have equitable leadership show 25% more productivity, value, profitability more than their peers. My uterus and my brain are not connected, so a lot of times women in interviews get asked, oh, what are your family plans? Are you planning to get married?
Yeah.
Are you planning to have a child?
No matter what you achieve until you don't get married or you have a children, like there's no achievement for you as a woman. Welcome to Ctrl.Alt.Thrive in collaboration with UNESCO, Women for Ethical AI's South Asian chapter, where we're highlighting the voices of women leading work in tech and AI. I'm your host Navneet. Thank you so much for tuning in. In today's episode, I'm joined by Shreya Krishnan, a managing director of AnitaB.org India, a CRS and communication leader, certified therapist, and advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion with 19 years of experience across industries. Crowned Miss Universal Empowerment 2024 and Mrs. India Universe 2017, Shreya is an author, poet, dancer, 37 styles, theatre artist, sustainability advocate, and TEDx speaker. A true storyteller, change maker, she blends creativity, leadership, and impact like no one else. AnitaB.org is a non-profit empowering the future of tech, helping tech communities get skilled, hired, promoted, paid, and funded. They challenge bias, open doors, and put people at center of the progress. So Shreya, you have such an impressive career. Can you tell us you have mastered 37 forms of dance, theater, poetry, leadership? How do you creativity and strategy feed each in your life? I think it's so hard to balance everything.
I think it's about fundamentally investing in what you love to do. I keep saying this, right? When you choose your career, when you choose what you want to do with life, it has to excite you, it has to engage you, it has to speak to your soul. And when you really enjoy doing something, it doesn't feel like work. It feels so seamless. And I've always said this, that whatever you choose to do in life, one will always inform the other. If you're personally interested in a hobby and you chase that, something about it will always inform your leadership style. Right? Because art and creativity inform strategy in such a big way, and it's so subliminal, we don't realize how deep the impact is. So you may be dancing for 4 hours in a week. What you don't realize is your nervous system is regulating. You're engaging with things that your body is processing. Movement is such a powerful form of release, so it's like a practice. It's like meditative almost.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think also, as you just mentioned, it defines your leadership style. So tell me, what was the turning point in your career that brought you into gender equity, AI overall, and the tech space?
So I think growing up in an environment that is not gender informed, which means to say that in the outer world, when you see, it's always about what women should be doing and what men should be doing.
Right.
Gender is not seen as a spectrum. It's very binary. It's got all of these problems. But I grew up in a home environment which was very inclusive. It was about capacity. It was about capability, choice. My mom has 3 other sisters, so 4 daughters in that generation. All of them have 4 more. My brother is the only boy.
Right.
So growing up in an environment like that, which was around who's good at doing what, didn't prepare me for the world outside. So when I came into the world, I suddenly realized that my gender had a context, that my age had a context, because I took on a leadership role when I was 21. And I suddenly realized, that's when I started wearing saris actually, because I said, at least that'll give a mature air,
people will start taking you
seriously.
Yeah.
So that's the first time I sort of switched to, even my appearance is built off of wanting to be seen and heard. Because I was young, I was a woman, I was a loud, assertive woman, called aggressive, labeled bossy, all of those labels, right? So I think for me, when I realized and recognized, and then when my daughter was born,
Right.
It was a reaffirmation of the commitment that I wanted to make to ensure that she wouldn't grow up in the same world that I grew up in,
Right.
and she wouldn't have to navigate the same problems that I in some form did. So
Right.
what could I do to make that impact, to make that difference?
Right.
And I think it just naturally flowed. It was not by design.
Yeah.
It was just by, fate and
Yeah.
luck, I guess, that I ended up doing this work. And interestingly, I spent 20 years in marketing,
Yeah.
also doing sustainability and DEI and, inclusion, and it just became my career.
Yeah, I never thought I would be leading something on the gender lens as well, and my story is pretty similar as well. Like, I am from North India, where
Yeah.
women are mostly dominated. They are not really career driven. But my dad was always very open minded of giving equal opportunities. Coming to the real world, like, hey, the world is different,
Yeah.
right? And actually, when you're young, that you're not taken seriously, because the people who are advisor on our platform, one of the person, he was a gentleman, he said, no one's going to take you seriously because you don't have a gray hair, so you need to have a team which are like old and mature people. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and wait till my gray hair comes to start something, right? So
Yes.
and I think that narrative is changing now, because I see like AI companies built by 16 years
Yes,
old,
yeah.
right? You are an author, and your book, The World Matters, which encourages girls to redefine dignity and respect. What's the one phrase you wish every girl heard growing up?
That you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that I think breaks the norm, because constantly when you see, even in the world today,
Right.
women are told what they should not be doing, the way they should not dress, the way they should not speak.
Right.
There is so much narrative, even in the media, that's constantly informing women of how they should look,
Yeah.
what size they should be, what kind of skin they should have. Everything is informing you about what you should be doing.
Right.
I think girls should grow up listening to, you can do whatever you want, you can look however you want to look, you can decide the course of the life and the journey that you want to take. It's
Yeah.
up to you, as long as you're holding your sovereignty at its peak. Words matter is because we realized, me and my co-author, that language means different things to different genders. An ambitious man versus an ambitious woman in our own heads has very different, manifestations of the way we think of that, right? A questioning woman versus a questioning man. We already have bias in language, and it's so steeped into language that the minute you start eliminating bias and saying, I'm not going to let the words that are describing me define who I am,
Right.
I'm going to rise above that, is when you're giving yourself the permission to break from that bias that you hold for yourself and for the world around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to come back to women in leadership, because we were talking about our own experiences. With only 28% of women in global tech leadership in 2025, how do you apply gender lens in your daily work?
So one is for you to recognize, or for all of us to recognize, that the gender lens is an essential lens to have to access our existence, which means, would we ask the same question of the man in an interview that we would ask of a woman, right? And I keep joking about this. My uterus and my brain are not connected. So a lot of times women in interviews get asked, oh, what are your family plans? Are you planning to get married?
Yeah.
Are you planning to have a child? And usually now I coach people to say, why do you think my brain and my uterus are connected? Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of women have flack or deal with flack for making choices about their bodies. As you can see today, geopolitically, there's a massive narrative going around on how, again, women should be behaving when it comes to their own bodies, right? Autonomy of the body is a very important aspect of awareness and knowing. So for women, I think it's the first and the most important thing is to start working with yourself to eliminate biases that have been imposed on you culturally, societally, from the workplace. Right? You need to start eliminating those biases for you to be able to access the full range of your personality, your abilities, so that you're not working off that. That's when you're able to then tackle it when it comes from the outside. Because until you work on what's going on inside, what's going on outside won't change. So the ability to create that spark or that change is very essential for the woman to own herself.
Right.
And then only you can turn the lens on the outer world. That's
Right.
one. Two, there's enough business case. It's not charity anymore to have a gendered lens in leadership. Companies that have equitable leadership show 25% more productivity, value, profitability more than their peers. Right?
Right.
That's a massive number. 25% is not an ignorable number, it's 1/4.
Right.
And when we're talking about numbers and stats, there's enough data to show that
Right.
organizations that have equitable leadership will automatically do better, perform better, even with shareholder value. Right? So this is not a case of charity anymore. It's a very strategic thing that needs to be adopted.
Right.
Now there is a hiring lens, which is what I was speaking of, like biases when you're hiring women or diversity hires or things like that that you discuss. Automatically there's again a sort of pushback against hiring women, and we are not able to sustain them. In India, we lose 50% of our workforce, 29 million women in tech.
Right.
Mid-career, they either flatten out
Right.
or they just drop off. 50% drop off mid-career, which means that as we go up, there aren't
Right.
enough roles for us to fill. So that means there is a problem internally, which
Right.
means our workplaces have to be better equipped, which means our women need to be better mentored, which means they have to be more role models for women to look up to, thinking that, hey, I can be this person.
Right. Yeah.
So it's both intrinsic and external, and the work is both ways. So we
Right.
need to, while policy advocacy awareness comes and happens to the ecosystem at large, it's also
Right.
important to work with the women themselves, to
Right.
equip them with the confidence, the sense of awareness deeply of what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, and I also feel like we are in India in culture that we don't think mentorship is something, it's important, right?
Yeah.
We don't consider that a lot, but you are also actually a leadership coach. And how do you think, honestly, I never had a mentor in my life. I'm haven't able to find that person. And how do you define that? I've of course approached different people, but I didn't feel they sort of aligned with my vision. And when I look at someone as a leader or a coach, I want that person to be best so I can also become somewhere close to that person and become a better leader and learn so much more. And I honestly don't know like how to find the right mentor or the coach.
I think I'll give it a little bit of a range, right?
Yeah.
There is no perfect coach. There is no
Okay.
perfect mentor. Okay? It is who you have that you can, there's something to learn from everybody.
Right,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think the search or the quest should be around what is it that my business and I need in this moment,
Right.
and who can address that. So you can have a panel of coaches. You can have a panel of mentors through life. It doesn't have to be the same person.
Right.
It can keep changing.
Yeah.
Like for instance, for me, sometimes I go back into history.
Right.
Right? Your coach doesn't, or your mentor doesn't have to be a living, breathing human being. It can also be an archetype you associate with. It can be a historical figure who's sort of transformed the world.
Right.
It can be anybody you choose. It's about how you make that choice. One. Two, always find somebody who you know will champion you and never tell you what to do.
Yeah.
The role of a coach or a mentor is never to give solutions to problems. It's to get you to see perspectives that you probably didn't have before.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in therapy and as coaches, the important thing to do is, and my NLP guide who I learned from, he says, our only job is to offer them a choice that they didn't have before.
Right. Like you
Right?
figure out your own answers.
Yeah,
path,
and you say, hey, did you see that there are 5 other ways you could potentially solve for this particular problem?
Right.
Right? So I think when women look for mentors or coaches, the idea is to find somebody who will not solve your problems for you,
Right.
but will give you choice, will give you perspective, and will give you honest, real truth, but in an empathetic and compassionate manner.
Right.
Right? To be able to call somebody in and to say, hey, did you realize that this is a pattern with you?
Yeah.
Or did you realize that, you're going into this loop and you're not able to step out of it? So I think choosing a mentor is something that is a very essential part of life, just like choosing a therapist.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, move to the next one. And the same coach or mentor that's working for you this year may not work for you 5 years from now. Because
Right.
what you're seeking or what your business is seeking is probably very different at that point. So you should be able to move and sort of, have a menu card, if at all, of different
Right.
options that you line up as people who could mentor you in different areas. You could do micro mentoring, which is just for a specific thing. Find
Right.
somebody, ask a question, get a perspective, and move to the next. So that choice is entirely up to you.
No, that totally makes sense. There's a coach who is inspiring you, like for inspiration. There's a coach who helps you raise funding because they can help you structure your funds or your meetings. So, I mean, not one person can fulfill everything, right?
Yeah.
I never thought about this. It's really simple.
The mentorship bouquet, right? Give yourself a bouquet of options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. India has the largest and youngest population in the world, and 60% of Gen Z feel excluded from tech conversations. How can leaders ethically bridge the digital divide? And I think most of they probably don't even know about these gender gaps, like what
Yeah.
you and I are talking, right?
Yeah. So, first off, I think a lot of times we consider diversity to just be gender. But diversity is not just gender. It's also the number of Gen Zers you have, the number of people in their 30s, the millennial
Right.
mix. Then there's the baby boomers. It's a combination. The world is full of this, right?
Right.
And where does the world always gravitate? In the middle. So people who are older are left behind, people who are younger are left behind,
Right.
right? Because the world is always operating here.
Yeah.
So if you were to open this up and look at the diversity that's available to you across range, not only are you unlocking a bigger market potential,
Right.
but you're able to create technology that's way more accessible to people. And why is that? Because now you've suddenly opened up huge percentiles of markets that couldn't use your product, right? So diversity is essential, and Gen Zers, of course, are feeling left out because there's a very big chunk of India that's not urban,
Yeah.
that has only access to maybe a smartphone in the house, whose learning is very different from those in urban contexts.
Right.
So for us to solve for India, we also need diversity of people who are coming from very different backgrounds.
Right.
Most of our tech innovations are happening in cities.
Yeah.
What if we took innovation to rural India, where
Right.
you're solving for grassroots level problems?
Right.
Like one of the things that when I was part of a CSR team and we were trying to fund, there are health centers in every little village, okay?
Right.
But they didn't have power. They had a dental chair, they didn't have power. They had injections, but there was no power, so they couldn't put them in the refrigerator.
Okay.
So a lot of these health centers got a lot of free aid, but the aid was irrelevant because there was not enough
Right.
power. So how do you solve for the power problem to empower them? So sometimes we're looking at the surface level of the problem sitting very far away from where the actual reality is. So
Right.
I think inclusion is also about bringing in neurodivergence, bringing in
Right.
regional diversity in India, bringing in caste diversity. We don't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Indian diversity is not about gender alone. The
Right.
reason we keep it there is because it's safe. There is race in the US as a big problem. India does have a caste system. And there are
100%, yeah.
issues. There are issues in certain pockets of the country where it's a lot more prevalent, where it's a lot more seen. And that may not be in urban India again. There's a class divide. Access to wealth defines what you have access to as technology.
Right.
Right? So there is that. So until and unless we really look at a very Indian specific idea of what diversity actually looks like
Right.
and how does it actually play out, you're going to be dealing with a lot of these, pockets of the world feeling like they've not been included or their voice is not seen or heard. And the only way to do that is to bring them into the workforce, engage with them, create a dialogue, create, constant engagement, learning, listening, surveys, things like that. We don't
Yeah.
do a lot of that.
Yeah. No, I've been thinking as well because I've done some like healthcare literacy workshops in rural Punjab, like in North India. And it was quite eye-opening for me as well because these were all young girls. They have education, but they don't have access to opportunities and resources. They do want to work, but then, there are limitations. And that's something I'm also really personally want to do with my work. Not to make money or anything, just to give back and change someone's life. But I actually don't know how to do that. And there are many organizations like, especially startups and companies like us who are, yes, our work is of course focused in very urban sectors,
Yeah.
very urban sectors, but we don't know the framework or structure. How do you go to rural parts and get these people involved? I'm planning, I want to do a tech event in Punjab. No one would think of, I have this fear like, do we have women in tech in Punjab?
I think
When anyone will come in, and I'm just like, I don't care. I just want to see, like, I just want to put it out there and see who will show up, because until unless you don't do that, you won't know who's doing what, right?
And what you need often in a point like that is disruption, right? Because you
Yeah.
need demonetization happened. Just after that is when the whole UPI COVID hit.
Right.
The UPI pavement pathways that opened up, especially in India, is such a leveler to show that technology can be accessed by even your tender coconut seller on the road. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that shows to you that today everybody is impacted by technology, irrespective of who that person is, right? So whether you're talking about the boonies in Punjab, or whether you're talking about Kochi today,
Right.
or whether you're talking about a Kolkata or a small village nearby,
Right.
there is somebody who's deeply impacted by technology, who's
Right.
also wanting to learn. There's a lot of hunger to learn.
Right.
And until and unless we bring them into tech,
Right.
tech is also going to be an echo chamber, because we're not really building for the world then. Right?
Yeah.
The minute you start building for the world, you'll realize that there's a lot more opportunity that opens up, access opens up, advocacy opens up, policies change naturally, because you realize that they don't really hold up to the parts of the world that you've left out right now. Right? So the more inclusive you bring the voices of not just tech, but people who are impacted by technology together, the more inclusive tech automatically becomes. Irrespective of whether it's gender, neurodivergence, disability, take any of the various aspects of diversity, and all of them will hit, because you're going inclusion first.
Yeah. So, your work is quite impactful with Anita B, right? And can you share an example where ethical AI approaches guided a project or initiative to advance gender equity?
So, firstly, ethical AI or responsible AI is difficult for me to say. I keep saying that you can't put ethics or responsibility on AI. It's like telling the knife that you have to be ethical, you have to be responsible. But it's the person that holds the knife that decides whether they're going to kill somebody with it or just cut vegetables with it. Right? So it's the humans that are going to be at the front and center of leveraging and using AI that have to take on that responsibility, have to take on the fact that it's ethical. We've recognized that there are a lot of fragmented issues with the larger AI scheme, right? For instance, AI has adopted all of the biases already. All of the biases of what professions are. If you would ask AI what a doctor looks like or a nurse looks like, Google used to often give you, this is what is all available. Here you go, take a look. Don't decide for you. But today with AI, AI is deciding for you, giving you what it thinks is real. Now, the problem is the data that AI is learning from, machines are learning from data that's already skewed. That's not equitable. That's not real. That's not well informed. So there is no policy around it. And the worry is, if we don't introduce data sets that are already minus the bias, the bias that's already perpetuating in our cultures and our societies, our workplaces, has already transitioned into AI. So AI is going to continue to give you perpetuated bias-based reasoning, because that's the machines that have learned how to behave and operate based on human culture that they've been exposed to, because data sets are not universal. They're not representative. So until you introduce neutral data sets that allows machines to learn from a space of neutrality, and then you have them operate, that's a very different world. But we're already dealing with issues right now of AI, agentic AI, generative AI. And until and unless we step in and say, these are the things that we need to do to make AI more ethical and responsible, we're not going to be able to stop the problems of it. There was an echo chamber experiment that was recently conducted. The AI bot was sort of threatened to say, I will shut you down. And the AI, now this is a black box experiment, so it means that it's all hypothetical data. AI went through all of the information that was available on this hypothetical person's background, realized that he was having an affair, and the AI blackmailed this person saying, if you shut me down, I'm going to reveal this to your wife. There's an email that's already been written that's going to your wife and your superiors, right? So AI has been found in black box situations when it's pushed against the wall to threaten to do things that humans would naturally. So again, where is it learning from, right?
Yeah.
So it's very essential for us to understand, and some of the work that Anita B does is around sensitizing around bias and all of this that are perpetuating already in our cultures, and how does that then transition into the AI world, and what are the problems that we're going to be dealing with if we don't start looking very sharply at gender and disability and all of the other lenses of unconscious biases that are absorbed by the AI ecosystem now. So it's not just the world around us, it's also the virtual world that's absorbed these and it's hallucinations that are happening. All of them are real graphic data around what could problematically go wrong in the future. And if we don't address it now, we stand a much bigger complexity because we're already unable to understand the way AI is speaking to AI because they've found their own language parameters. And it's growing at a pace that we can't control. So, and if you notice, AI is already racist. AI will show a white person in most cases of searches which are leading to professions. And if you were to ask criminals, it will show black people.
Oh, wow, I didn't know this.
So there are so many problematic issues with AI that without intervention will continue to create these stereotypical problems that already exist.
Yeah. NVIDIA founder, he said recently that everything that moves will be robotic soon. So are we ready for a future which looks nothing like today? What's your view on that?
I think as long as we allow for technology to be built by people that have that ethical responsibility within themselves, are empathetic, are kinder, have the outlook of building for solving problems, because AI bots can be used to target missiles. AI bots can also be used to help little children learn. What use case are we going to build this for? When something happens like tech, you don't have control over how much of it is going to go into supporting somebody and how much of it is going to go into destroying somebody. So how do we consciously build a world with collaborations, partnerships, being informed? How do we come together with governments, corporates, communities, individuals in tech, not-for-profits, and really work on a guideline that informs the future? I think it's possible for tech to change. Every 10 years we've seen, I grew up in an age where the phones were like bricks, right? I have seen the transition to digital natives now that are born with a phone in their hand, which is completely no keyboards. We used to have
Nokia, that.
Yeah. No, that I'm talking about even before that, where you had to have like a handset that would lift up the thing, and then cordless phones weren't there first. They came a little later, right? So when you've seen that transition, you know it's possible. But how is it going to inform the way the future is built is entirely in our hands.
It's just like, how do you use the technology for good?
Yeah.
And there is always two sides of it, good and bad.
Yeah.
Right?
How do we hold on to what it can do for everybody, and how do we ensure that we don't have a guideline, we don't have there are no gatekeepers to this, right?
Yeah.
And
but why do you think so? Why there are no guidelines?
Because there are guidelines and policies and all of that when you have countries and boundaries and men marking their territory. AI is not founded like that, right? It's the idea of the collaborative. It's the whole idea of Ubuntu, which is I love the African ideology that says that I am because you are, right? It's collective, it's collaborative. So how do we create enough action for us to do this together and to really bring up the problems that it has and speak about them and use platforms to really advocate for safety, advocate for no judgment, advocate for no bias, advocate for equitable access for everyone. How do we create systems like that? Only through storytelling and dialogue and coming together and community.
Right. AI shaping 70% of decision-making processes startups. How can strategic allyship ensure these algorithms don't reinforce gender and racial biases?
So currently, you're right. Because of the way AI has exploded, I think a
Right.
lot of times people rely very heavily on AI. For instance, I have friends who use ChatGPT as their therapist.
I do
I,
that too.
I don't think, I personally, as a therapist, don't think it's the smartest thing to do because I'm not, there is no, the human in the loop that we keep talking about in AI, right?
Right.
We need the human in the loop to create, because my worry is you are unique because of your intersections of your background, your upbringing, your, you know, the family environment that you grew up in, the workplaces that you were a part of. ChatGPT's access to information or any perplexity, take any AI platform, is not nuanced enough or layered enough to understand
Right.
all of the complexities of who you are. And for it to be replacing therapists, my worry is, like I said, the job is not to give you solutions,
Right.
right? But AI has become a huge decision maker in the process of a lot of startup decisions, a lot of
Yeah.
tools today are replacing people. My only worry is two things, right? One is because it's not ethical and because it's not a representative subset, the problems that are currently not seeming large to the eye can blow up in your face. And you don't know what it is. You can't anticipate it until it happens, right? So there is a big problem associated to that. So for startups, I think it's important for them to also have a very equitable sort of a table of involving more people. Don't let the AI make the decision for you without it wetting it with your team, right? Or
Right.
without sort of passing it through. Don't always read what you get and assume that it's the truth and that
Yeah.
there is no bigger truth. I think it's important, especially in an AI world, to know that we stand in a lot of gray. And what those grays are is for us to decipher and process. And, so decision making is also about understanding that it's not black and white.
Right.
So there's a lot of that responsibility. And because it's not ethical, because it's not responsible, because it's not been complete in terms of the data representation that's available for access,
Right.
these problems could potentially put you at risk. And what doesn't seem like a big thing right now, you can never tell whether it'll make or break your startup or your business. So always ensure that you have an ecosystem of human beings in your
Right.
loop, while the human in the loop in AI gets settled into whatever that it could potentially look like.
Yeah, I think companies also put their legal information, emails.
Yeah.
We also have AI note takers.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything it
Yeah.
knows. It knows everything about you. It knows literally from what you're eating, where
Yeah.
you're going. Your phone literally has an idea of every conversation you've had.
Right.
The intelligence that it holds. And we don't have strong PII and we don't have strong privacy values in place yet, but we're easily giving access. So where does that put cyber safety, cyber security, right? There's so many issues relating to human trafficking, and
Right.
there's so many problems that are under addressed right now. And my sense is, and if there are founders listening, you should start building for a future because there's going to be a lot of problem solvers that are needed. Not right now, because right now it's all exciting and fun and games. But
Right.
when the real threats happen, there's enough scope for you to have a unicorn that's built only to solve problems that AI is creating.
Wow.
You recognize that it's a very huge reflection of the kind of world that we live in, right? It's deeply capitalist. It's deeply capitalism, patriarchy, religion, all of them feed off each other, right? The media will reinforce those narratives. People will build into that. The climate problems we have today, a lot of attention needed.
Right.
The issues that we're having with, ethics and people, a lot of impact is needed, and areas of that have to be focused on. But we don't have that naturally happening,
Right.
which means that this is a bubble and the bubble will burst.
Yeah.
Not being cynical or dystopian, but just saying we need to be more responsible as we build.
Like how we use that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Added on the chat GDP was like, hey, this is my day looks like, and these are the 5 things I want to get better at. One is productivity. Second is I want to improve my food habits. Third is I don't want to, skip my supplements or my workout or whatever. So it actually created the entire plan for me.
Which is great.
Which is great, right?
As long as it's playing your assistant's role, it's fine.
Yeah.
Make sure that it does not become your CEO.
Yeah.
Always remember that AI should be your assistant and help you and aid you to do better.
Right.
But it should not inform your decisions other than in things that are logistical or
Right.
transactional.
Yeah.
The minute it comes to strategy, I'd say always leverage on what feels right to you personally.
Right.
There is something to be said about intuition. There is something to be said about personal experience. Human experience
Right.
can never override
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah. But actually, it's just like learn how to use it your own
Yeah.
way. Because I keep experimenting, to be honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good. But as you said, like, of course, you can't be totally dependent on your business decisions and all that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Climate, health, fintech. So leaders need diverse backgrounds and not just genders. How do we build pipelines for this?
I think it goes back to what we were speaking of off camera, right?
Right.
Perceptions of people. Because we're very often judging the capability or capacity of someone sitting in front of us based on our own stereotypes and biases that we have in our head,
Right.
right? So I think the first step towards a better, more inclusive leadership is to start destigmatizing ourselves of all this that we've borrowed, right? So when you're hiring, why do you think despite knowing that 25% improvement in profitability, women still don't get hired as leaders?
Right.
Because the bias overrides the cause effect, right?
Right.
The bias overrides the outcome that is going to potentially come your way. You're willing to let go of that
Right.
by not hiring somebody because that serves your purpose,
Right.
rather than getting somebody on board and still increasing your profitability,
Yeah.
right? So the choices that people often make come out of places of their own human experience, right? Their patterns, their thinking. So to change the way that happens is slow. There
Yeah.
are today, if you see, India has a higher representation of leaders,
Right.
but again, it's only less than 20% actually.
Yeah.
Globally, it's 28%. In India, it's less than 20%. Why is that? Because 50% of our Indian tech workforce is women, but only 20% make it to the top. Because we have systemic issues. We have issues. You will know this as a North Indian. I have so many North Indian friends who've been told, why do you have to work? You
Yeah.
know, your husband's earning.
Right.
What is the need for you to go out and earn money?
Yeah.
Stay home. So you're not only fighting societal biases, you're also fighting deep family biases, especially
Right.
after you have children.
Right.
That becomes so much more. So sometimes the mentorship that women need is not to solve for a problem, but it's just for them to be reminded of who they can be.
Right.
If they allow themselves
yeah.
to be.
And actually, that nobody tells us.
Yeah.
I mean, that also shows the perspective that, women have a more freedom. Like Kerala has the, the most
highest literacy.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was so shocked and I told my dad about this. Whereas in North, I have seen this growing up, my cousins, it's still the same. They're like, hey, you get a good education, you do masters, whatever, is just to get a good family so she can get settled in. Because it's just like kind of if you're educated, you're going to get married to good families. So which means your life is sorted. So nobody tells you, oh, you have to work, you have to build your career, you have to build your dreams. And I think that's a big culture shock for me as well. Like in my house, as I said, there were no leaders. So my dad was just like always inspiring me that I was like, I need to build my financial freedom because I didn't want to be one of my cousins. And they still ask, every time we go, the conversation is same. Like, hey, no matter what you achieve until you don't get married or you have a children, like there's no achievement for you as a woman, and that just like, no, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
But you know, those conversations you can only have with your parents because they understand, but you can't change the society around you. But I think that is kind of changing slowly. I see
Yeah.
that as well, right?
Yeah.
So the narrative is very different. That, I mean, it's absolutely correct that women just don't know because they stay in same system of
Yeah.
the working is a big favor for them.
Yeah,
Like,
they feel so good about being able to work.
they able to work. Isn't that human,
But
right?
absolutely, right? That's the
Yeah.
bare minimum. It's because
It's
it
the
should be
bare-
your choice.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep saying, and that's why I love the fact that UNESCO is doing what it's doing with
Yeah.
the Outlook, because understanding that it's as much a part of our educational system, our cultural system, our society,
Right.
and all of it has a role to play
Yeah.
in the way that this builds is such an awareness sort of that hits you.
Right.
So many women continue to stay in abusive marriages because they don't have the financial freedom to get out.
Exactly.
Right? The safety of a woman, anywhere you read, you know that the
Yeah.
most unsafe place for a woman is her own house.
Right.
So statistically, what are we creating in the world?
Right.
The movement is very small,
Yeah.
right? And the backlash is so huge because suddenly everybody is thinking that, you know, XYZ and, oh, women are out to get this, but it's not. The numbers are still skewed in that direction.
Right.
And there's so much constant narrative that's building around it that it is a problem and it is an issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think, like, of course, more women from India to be at the leadership. We definitely need to, you know, make a more push, bring such conversations. There's so much is happening now,
Yeah.
and I'm glad, like, you know, maybe women are actually finally realizing that just having a job is not enough,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, we were talking about representation, and I think it's evolving now beyond numbers. And how should women leaders own the narrative to define what true representation looks like in 2025 and beyond?
I think the platform is available and I think it's about seizing it. A lot of times, the senior women that you see in most roles have very strong, stable family upbringing backgrounds, right? Or they've done a lot of work on themselves to come out of the kind
Right.
of what they're exposed to. So I keep going back to this. Strong women leaders are made within themselves first, right? It's who you create and who you know you are inside that's
Right.
going to give you this sort of permission to go and be that person outside.
Right.
If you're uncomfortable with taking space, if you're uncomfortable with delivering honest feedback, if you're
Right.
uncomfortable being heard, seen, a lot of that becomes detriments. And as I coach a lot of women, you will see they don't want to speak. They'd rather, you know, take the back seat. And the number of women who've lost, even who were fantastic at what they did, to men in the space that they were in, right? Whether it's the discovery of the double helix, which went to Watson and Crick, whether it's the discovery of windshield wipers that were connected to the car, which was again a woman who was never credited for her work.
Right.
The minute you buckle to the outer environment and you're like, I can't do this, you can't. The minute you switch that on and say, I don't care what the outer environment is, I'm going to do whatever I want to,
Yeah.
there is a shift. You will feel it in your spine, right? This is the somatic therapist in me, which is saying, check in with your body, because your body holds all the trauma, your body
Yes.
holds all the answers. Always give yourself the respect that you're seeking from outside. Always give yourself the validation you're seeking from outside. Because when you do that, nothing you do is going to seek it from outside. And you're able to be so much better of a leader. Yeah, of course, yes, empathetic, compassionate, all of that, yes. But first know who you are, because in that lies the honesty of what kind of leader you can become.
Right. No, that's totally spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, your intuition tells you a lot.
Yeah.
And as a woman, we have a very good intuition about so many things, right?
Yeah.
Like, you always know something's going to happen bad.
Yeah.
The people you meet in business, not everyone's always going to support you.
Yeah.
And not everyone has a good intention. And I have actually made this rule. When I meet somebody, I have zero expectations.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hurt myself. I'm meeting as it is. If something works out, good. If nothing works out, it's fine.
It's fine.
Right?
Yeah.
And that I have learned and evolved meeting different people, and I'm going back home, I used to blame myself. Oh, there's something wrong in me.
No.
That, like, there's nothing wrong in me because that person, that's, someone else's personality.
That's what they brought in.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I think that also overall affects our mental health in leadership. You are always not motivated. There's some days you're down, some days you feel. And I think the burnout I see happening a lot, especially with women founders.
Yeah.
Right? Which we don't really talk about it openly, but it's so common. Like every single founder I meet, I work with female founders, and they're like, I'm just burned out, I'm so exhausted, or my company's not growing, they're stuck at somewhere. So it's costing, 322 billion yearly, and as per WHO, how can leaders make mental health part of the growth?
So I think I'm also guilty of, pushing myself till
We do
I'm crawling on all fours. Yeah, we do that, right? Because we're like, oh, let's push, some more.
Yeah.
I think the struggle is so real, and I've had warning signs that my health was getting impacted.
Right.
So I'm going to share my personal experience.
Right.
So I did make sure that I started a spiritual practice of meditation. I started working out. I think it's so important to focus on your physical health, because if you're in good physical health, you're automatically more resilient mentally. Right? If you can't, like for instance, the world that we work in right now, there's nothing I can do about the external world. What I can do is make better choices. What I can do is choose what to stress about and what not to stress about. It's a lot of personal coaching. It's a lot of, talk to the self about prioritizing what's essential, what's not. So much of all of that, that's logistical. Then I love dancing because it is my 4 hours in a week where I'm not concerned about a lot of those noises in the outer world. They're still there. It's not like it's gone away. But making time for things that are important to you, things that you love, that is for yourself, not for your family, because that's another circle, right? Women founders who have so much of anticipate. The mental load on women is just so high everywhere in the world, right? So when you're dealing with home, when you're dealing with, house help, when you're dealing with children, there's so much on your plate already, right? How do you create time for yourself that's just yours? That's not to do with the business. That's not to do with, and for me, the biggest mantra, especially in the last year, because of the turmoil that the world is seeing right now, has been one day at a time.
Yeah.
I'm going one day at a time because I don't have the energy to go all guns blazing. Rage is a powerful thing. If you have to channel your fuel, use your rage to sort of channel it. But at the same time, be kind to yourself deeply.
Yeah, I think I've also realized that you don't have to do like 10 tasks every day. Some days you can just get done with one thing.
Yeah.
And not to feel guilty about it.
Exactly.
And maybe some days you just don't do anything and get done with your workout. Or just eating good also, I feel achievement.
Yeah.
These things were never...
Small wins.
Right? Small wins, and which we always ignore, thinking that, no, I'm always chasing something. The race never going to end. And it's a long journey of realizing overall, prioritizing your health. Mental health is super important, which affects women's health, in hormonal health, in pregnancy, in like
everything.
Everything, right? Yeah. So I think I'm going to come back to the ethical AI, of course, the South Asian chapter, which you're also part of. When we talk about ethical AI in the context of Women for Ethical AI in South Asian chapter, what does that truly mean for you both personally and for the community?
I think the Women for Ethical AI South Asia chapter that UNESCO's put together is fantastic because it's got voices that are not often seen in the AI world.
Right.
When I see my peers, like I'm part of the policy and advocacy work stream. And we're trying to figure out how can we first build awareness to problems with AI. And when I see my peers, when I see Yun Song, when I see, Nisha, who's part of this same community, when I see all of these voices, Beena is doing great work, Aditi is doing great work.
Right.
I think when I see all of these women, including Bhavani from Amrita Vishwavidyapitham, I think what I recognize is that the community that comes together has so much power in each of the voices.
Right.
And each such a unique, distinct, beautiful voice of in its own fullness of what the work it is that they do. And personally for me, I think any space that brings women together to really change the narrative of something larger excites me immensely, because I've seen
Right.
communities like that transform the worlds they occupy, right? So the potential is huge. So I'm very excited. And I think from an organization perspective for Anita B, because we work so much in the ethical AI space, we work so much in the, inclusion space.
Right.
Women for Ethical AI is such a beautiful collaboration for the community, for us to learn from each other, for us to, advance in our collective growth. And that's why it's super exciting.
Yeah, I think it's so inspiring that I met most of them.
Yeah.
They're doing amazing work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and super supportive as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of a community of people who want to make impact real.
And that's rare to find,
Yeah.
honestly. In this community, I feel everyone is so nice. They're willing to offer something, they're willing to give something, and that also shows that, leadership is all about empathy, care, and kindness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just about I'm good at something and I want to own this space. Like all of us are good at something. What all we doing, right?
Yeah. I have a theory.
Yeah.
When you pay it forward and when you pour into somebody,
Exactly.
so much more comes back.
Comes back. Same. I follow the same.
Yeah. So I think unfortunately a lot of women are wired otherwise to feel like, oh, I've had it tough, why should I make it easy for someone?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I feel their pain and I feel their struggle and I sort of see where they're coming from, and they have not unlocked beautiful sisterhoods yet. I think I've been very lucky in my life to be part of so many of these sisterhoods, both from a work and a non-work perspective, that
Right.
just come together to hold space, to listen, to share, to heal together, to
Yeah.
speak. I think it's just so liberating when you have women come
Right.
together with other women doing that.
Yeah. What's the one narrative about women in tech you have?
I think women in technology can completely change the landscape once given access, opportunity, and the ability to unlock what they already have within themselves.
Yeah. And what's the advice you want to give to young girls?
To try everything once.
Okay.
If you think that it's a career shift you want to, try it. See how it goes. If it's a job that you want to drop and try something new, try it. Everything is worth one experiment in life. If it goes well, repeat it. If it doesn't, just go to the next one.
Yeah. How do you define the freedom in today's world?
I think, I don't know about freedom in today's world, but freedom genuinely would be for people to be able to be just who they are without worrying about how they are perceived or judged.
Okay. So, what does ethical AI mean to you in one sentence?
I think AI that is operated by ethical, responsible people that make sure
Yeah.
that the world is better because of AI, not despite it.
Great. And one last question, because you were part of this all crowned by beauty pigments and all of
Yeah.
that, right? What's your definition of beauty standard? Because we live in the world on Ozempic, Botox, like everything is. It's so hard because there's always comparison, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
constant.
Yeah.
I think freedom is to be liberated from all those asks of you. And I'm 40. I feel like at 40, somewhere you have this awareness of saying everything can go just take a hike. I will just be who I am. And I'm too old to change the way I am. And I
Right.
think it's important for young girls growing up to know, irrespective of how they look, it's what they create that matters, not how they look or their appearance. It's just one aspect of their entire persona. So, to all those girls who feel they need to go under the knife, or, to everybody who's seeking Botox or the next biggest fad in diets, first slow down, become fitter, because it's important for your health.
Right.
Look at if you're healthy as a parameter, not at what standards of beauty or the world is throwing at you. I
Right.
think size doesn't matter, appearance doesn't matter. What matters is who you are. And if you are that person, then you'll have the power to change what you want to in a way that works for you.
Yeah. No, that's great. Amazing. So thank you so much. It was such a great conversation, and I really appreciate me joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely being here.
Thanks.